Dr. Lisa here, and you're actually in my kitchen because we're not going to do any exercises today. I'm not going to go through any postural things. I'm actually just going to show you how to make some sourdough bread. I put up a post a little while ago and I had lots of people messaging me back saying, how do you make that? I had people from America, all over the world going, did you make that bread? So I thought, you guys might be home, might be looking for something to do. Maybe you've been wanting to make sourdough bread for ages. And yes, this has got nothing to do with chiropractic at all, or spinal health, but I thought I'd share it with you anyway. And it's something that you can do with the kids. Now, I've been making sourdough bread for years and years and years. And in fact, I've had the starter going for probably about 6-7 years and have given it to so many people. So it's actually been a really lovely way to share something. And I thought, well, I can show you how to make the bread today. Obviously, we're not actually going to be baking the bread today because with sourdough bread, it is a process and it does take a good 24 hours really to get that bread, out of the oven. So, but it is worth it. So if you've been curious and you've read stuff, and it's actually really hard it took me about 6 months to actually get it to the point where my family would eat it. So it is really delicious and it is easier to digest. It is more nutritious. It does depend on a few things that you put in the bread. So I'll go through that. But as I go through the recipe today, don't stress because I'll actually pop a post in later today or tomorrow and write out the recipe. Now with the starter, I can tell you how to make the starter, but if you prefer and if you're around Melbourne, then we might be able to organise something to kind of grab some from our practice. But it'll take you about 3 weeks to make the starter. So for the starter, it really is, you need to feed it. So I've had the starter. Yesterday I gave it a few feeds, and what that is you pop in a couple of tablespoons, and it must be, so this is the really tricky thing that a lot of people don't know, it's got to be organic wholemeal flour. So it could be, I've used rye. I get pretty fussy with things that I do, so I've actually got my own flour mill here. So this is a schnitzer all the way from Germany, and I pop my rye grain, and I actually make my rye flour for my starter. So it's really fresh, and it really helps to get that started lovely and active. So active means ready to make your dough, and you can't quite see it, but it is bubbly. So I give it a few feeds. It's a couple of tablespoons of flour to a couple of tablespoons, or about 3 tablespoons of water. So it's kind of a sloppy pancake mix. All right, so you add that to your starter, and then you do that 3 times. I did my last feed this morning, so quite early. So it's really bubbly, and it's all just the natural yeasts that are in the flour. So the point with organic flour is that it hasn't got bleach, and they're the things that stop those natural yeasts from fermenting your bread. So it needs to be organic. So it's really interesting. All these natural old things require, just natural ingredients and unadulterated. So, and I'm really excited because I'm going to actually share with you where I've been getting my flour to make the rest of the bread. So it's Toorong Farm, which is maybe about an hour from here, and they grow their own ancient grain, so I don't use any wheat in my bread. And the whole fermentation process of making the bread, letting it proof, helps to eat up a lot of that gluten. Now, this is definitely not gluten-free bread, but a lot of people who are wheat intolerant or sensitive can actually eat this bread. So Toorong Farm, and I've got to say, since I've been using their flour, it's obviously fresher. Normally I use spelt, but I've got their red, their French red, and also their kamut, and the bread is just tasting even better than before. So the starter is bubbling up. And I've actually designed this. Well, I've read loads of different recipes, but I've found a way that is so quick and easy that when you are busy and back into your normal routine after all of this craziness, I don't even want to use the C word, has calmed down, you can do this in between your cooking. Like, it seriously takes you no time. It just takes you that day to kind of decide you're going to make your bread and get your starter nice and active. And then, yeah, so it's really, really easy. So I've had that starter sitting here since this morning with the last feed. It's nice and bubbly. So I'm just going to make one loaf today because I've only got one young man, one of my kids at home, and he's trying not to eat too many carbs. So normally I make two, but anyway. So I'll have this recipe written down, so don't stress, guys. So I'm just putting in, this is the French red from Torong Farm. I'd love to go and visit that farm one day. So hi everyone, it's Dr. Leslie here from Errol Street Chiro, but we're in my kitchen. So we're just kind of giving you guys some things to kind of do while you're at home, and you may have been wanting to make sourdough bread for ages. So here I am with your requests, lots of requests here. So I'm going to pop in 450 grams of flour. So now guys, you don't have to go to these lengths that I go to, but you know, just a good, you don't have to use organic here. So you can use wheat, you can use spelt, you can use whatever flour you like. So I'm popping in 450, and then I'm popping in my nicely activated starter. So we'll just zero my scales. So I'm popping in, I usually do about 380 grams for double this, so we're just going to halve that. So about 190. Oh, a little bit more. And the wonderful thing about this bread, it's not, when you do bake it, it's actually not that sour. So you're going to find that the kids are going to love it. All right, 190 on the dot. Okay, so then we need a bit of salt. Again, avoid the iodized table salt, guys. So this is pink lake salt that I buy, so I've just popped it in my little container, and I will put a teaspoon and a half in there. So 1 and a half. How you guys going? There's a couple of people that have joined us. Thanks for joining, guys. All right, we've got the salt, and then we need a bit of water. And again, we're going to be fussy with our water. This is filtered water. You can use bottled water, but you just don't want the chlorine from the tap. Now, the other thing that you could do is if you leave the tap water out overnight in a container, now preferably glass, guys, so stay away from plastics as much as possible, and just leave it out with a bit of muslin cloth on the top, and overnight the actual chlorine will evaporate out of that water, so you can use that water in your bread. So I'm just going to pop, I'm a little bit slack with this measurement, so I'm going to pop in about 200 mils, or 200 grams, 200 mils of water. All right, now remember you can add but you can't take out, yeah? So I've got my spoon, and just give it a stir. Now it's actually going to be, it should actually be a little bit sticky, okay? So I think I'm going to add a little bit more water. But also, guys, I just, you know, cooking is a great time. Like, I used to spend, you know, lots of time cooking with the kids, you know, whatever we were doing, whether it was, you know, pasta or biscuits or whatever, you know, lovely, healthy, nourishing things we were doing. But it was also a great time to talk to the kids because you kind of got them captivated there, yeah? So, you know, it is a really nice time to chat. My grandmother, who was from Calabria in Italy, she used to tell me that this is the way they would make their bread. So someone in the, you know, the village, or a few people would have an oven, and women would get together and chat and talk about life, talk about their problems. You know, it was just a way to gather, but they'd make their bread and then they'd bake it in the oven. So they'd make the sourdough and they'd bake it, and, you know, they'd come back and collect it. So it was a lovely, I mean, obviously now we can't do that. So I haven't even got Britt next to me. I feel funny doing a live video without Dr. Britt here. But yeah, it is lovely. You can do it with your family at home at the moment with all of this going on. But it is a way, cooking and sharing food is just such a lovely way to connect with your family. And you know, as I said, I've shared this with so many people over the many, many years. All right, so I just need a touch more water. So it isn't a nice time to chat to the kids, and I find that you know, it just helps them to understand the whole process of getting a meal on the table, and that satisfaction of you know, baking something or making bread and bringing it. You can ask my kids now, they're adults now, but I still get excited when I pull out a loaf out of the oven. So it's really good fun, especially when it does taste so delicious. So here I am, we've just mixed that. So it takes a little while, so I'm just going to keep mixing. Couple of minutes of just mixing that through. Now you notice that I didn't sift the flour, but you know, you can sift it. I don't normally sift the flour. So it's quite sticky. It's not that dry. Okay, so that's okay. That's how you want it, a little bit sticky. So I'm just going to give it a couple more. And this is a bit of exercise. So any of those who are kind of hoping for an exercise video or some stretches today, here's your little bit of exercise, guys. But I do just kind of want to say one thing. We're still open in the practice. I'm popping in this afternoon, and the only thing I'm going to say about all of this that's going on is that yes, we have to be careful, and we are taking all the precautions, working with the mask, and I've never done that in 30 years of practice. But people are so fearful, so people stop being so fearful. Just do what you need to do and be happy. People aren't even smiling as you walk, you know, down around the block or do your exercise. I'm just finding people aren't even smiling anymore. So smile. You can still be happy with all this going on. Everyone is affected. Everyone in one way or the other is affected with this, but you can still smile and stop being fearful. This will pass, okay? But you know, it's a great time. We're seeing lots of people reaching out to each other. You know, a lot of beautiful acts are happening. You know, just, yeah, we're seeing lots of lovely things. And I think I hope a lot of good will come out of this as well. I hope people are going to stay more connected, you know, reach out to each other as much as we have. And, you know, getting back to some of the basics like making your own bread. And, you know, I'm seeing families just spending a lot more time together and, you know, pulling out puzzles and board games and doing all those things that they probably wish they'd done before. So hopefully there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this chaos too. All right, so you've mixed your dough. So then you're going to do is you're going to leave that for about 20 minutes. I'm not going to stand here and talk to you for 20 minutes because I'll drive you guys crazy. So I just cover it with just a bit of cloth. Let it sit for 20 minutes. Now I've got some granite here, so I kind of like to pop something underneath, or tea towel, pop it on that, just cover that. Let it sit for 20 minutes. I'll write this recipe out, guys. In about 20 minutes time, now very important, just be careful what you wash your, and I don't even put any perfume on. I actually just try and keep any sort of perfumes and fragrant things away from the bread. So, you know, wash your hands as we should do anyway. A lot of things we should already be doing. So wash your hands really well. And then it's called a wet knead. So you're just going to get in there and just stretch it out. It's kind of good fun. You can really see that elasticity already in about 20 minutes of just this sitting here. So you give it a good little massage. And again, you just work. You can even get that posture nice and upright, guys. And, you know, pull those shoulder blades here and do some of that nice work. Only for about a minute or two. So you just work, that's called a wet knead. So just grabbing it and pulling it up. Gets a bit sticky, but it's kind of good fun. I'm sure the kids would love that part. Maybe just one child in there. And then you let it sit for another half an hour. And then you just have a nice clean surface with a little bit of flour. Tip it out and you'll just start kneading it. It only takes about 2 to 3 minutes and it will just come together in this beautiful elastic mass, which is going to be your bread. Then, so that's about an hour. So like, you know, if you're home, you could be cooking, you know, start this at the beginning of your food prep, and halfway through, you're going to give it a knead. And then after dinner, you can just do that last little 2 minute, it's a 2 minute knead, pop it back in there. Now, if I'm making this now, I can let this sit out and then bake it later tonight. So what I do is I take it out, I give it another little minute knead, form it into the loaf that you would like. Okay, you can just dust it with a bit of flour and you can just cut it. Like sometimes I'll put lines if I'm doing a long loaf. If I'm doing a round loaf, I'll just kind of cut a ring in there so as it expands in the oven, it just looks beautiful. So it really does look like a shop bought bread. Now, I'll also just go through quickly now just how long to cook it for, temperature. So it's got to be in a really, really hot oven. So you want that bread to get that, that loaf to go in the oven that's really hot. So it'll just start that nice raising activity in your bread. And another really, really lovely trick is you put a container of hot water. So make sure you don't put a cold container with cold water in your oven because it'll burst. It'll crack. So I put it in there as the oven's warming up, a container, water, pop it in the oven, and that will help to create that lovely crusty bread too. So, one loaf, this will take a good 30-40 minutes. So I put it on high, the maximum for about 10-15 minutes. Just keep an eye on it depending on your oven. Turn it down for another 20-30 minutes, and when you take it, and I flip it about halfway through, just turn the loaf around. When it's cooked, it really will have a hollow sound when you tap it, okay? So, yeah, it's good. And then as much as you want to dig into that loaf straight away to eat, it needs to sit for a good 40 minutes before you dig in. And that's it. So I hope I've made some sense here with this sourdough bread. Now, to make your starter, if you don't want to, if you're not in Melbourne, if you want to make your starter, it takes about 3 weeks. So that process of a couple of tablespoons of organic flour, wholemeal, with water to make that sloppy pancake dough, you're going to do that once a day for 3 weeks. So after a few days, you're going to throw some out because you're going to end up with the mountain of starter. And it won't keep feeding it. So you really want, and so you can see after I've made the bread, I've got some starter left. So then what do I do with that? I can leave it out. I can leave it out of the fridge and just feed it a tablespoon of flour every day. Take some out every couple of days, otherwise you end up with too much, until you're ready to bake the bread. Now I, again, have found a way of just popping it in the fridge and leaving it there for a week and ignoring it really, and then taking it out and feeding it just a little tablespoon of flour for about a day before I start this process of 3 concentrated feeds over 24 hours, then ready to make the bread. So it sounds a little bit tricky, but it's actually really easy once you get going. So keep this in the fridge. You can leave it in there for about a week without feeding it. If you're going to say, I took this out Tuesday, gave it a feed, and then Wednesday yesterday I started with my 3 feeds. So lunchtime yesterday, last night, early this morning, ready to make the bread today at this time. So warmer weather, it will proof quicker, and colder weather, it might take a little bit longer to get those bubbles going. Now, if I didn't want to bake this bread today or tonight, which I don't, I actually want to bake this tomorrow, I can pop it in the fridge. I just put a tea towel over it, and that will slow that proofing down. So then I'll take it out tomorrow, pop it on a board and shape it, leave it out. By the time the oven's hot, I then just leave it out for that 15-20 minutes until that oven heats up. And then I'll just bake it tomorrow at whatever time. It can even last in the fridge 2-3 days before you make it. If you make twice this, I use it for pizza dough, so it's great. You can make pizza, you can just have a bowl with this focaccia, you can fry a little bit in the fry pan, and it's really, really delicious. You can add fruit, you can make a fruit loaf, all sorts of stuff. So I hope this might inspire some of you to do something a bit different. This has been a great opportunity for people to kind of do things that they've been wanting to do for a while, or get creative, whether it's in the kitchen or some way of being creative and just doing something new. So let me know if any of you end up baking any bread or needing any help. I will pop that recipe up. Just yell out, and we thought we'd just keep this session nice and light and easy for you guys with everything that's going on. So I do wish you all the best. And if you guys need us, we are in the office, limited hours, but we are there. So signing off for today, everyone. Take care and have a great Thursday. Bye then.